done one of these in about 6 months.
Yeah, it's been a while. That's why I thought I would check in, and we're making it live now. So here I am, Hannibal, with one of my favorite guests, former Olympian, AWA legend, WWE legend, should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, but he's a little bit too controversial for them, I'm sure. But I'm sure he'll be in there one day. The Olympic strongman, Ken Patera. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, good, Hannibal. Hannibal the animal. I've been thinking about you. Yeah, we haven't hooked up in a while.
Yeah, it's been a few years. You have a book out now as well.
Yes, I do. Yeah, the sales kind of dipped this summer. There it is.
Ken Patera, Weight of the World, and I believe it's on Amazon for people that want to buy it.
Yeah, they can either buy it off of Amazon, or if they want an autograph one, they can just go to kenpatera.com and I'll autograph one and mail it to them.
And I'm positive there's some great stories in there if it's anything like your interviews.
Oh, yeah, we have some good stories, you know. The guy that wrote it, Kenny Casanova, he lives up in Albany, New York. And he's done a lot of these. He did a book for Tito Santana, and I think for the Bushwhackers, and a few other guys, you know. But yeah, he did a good job. And a friend of his wanted to get into writing books, and his name was George Luce. So he wrote the majority of the book. I told him I didn't want just a fucking book. You know, I told him, you know, write it where there's a story to it. And that's what it was. It turned out really good. Really good. But it came out last year, and that thing was going like hotcakes. Then, like everything else, you know, it died down. But I'm still getting a few. I know a good friend of mine from the '60s. We lived together out in Portland, Oregon, before I moved back to Minneapolis to wrestle in the AWA. But anyway, he called me a couple of weeks ago. Says, Kenny, I need some more books. He says, the one I bought from you, I've loaned it out so many times that it's a goddamn war to get it back. And he said, I haven't finished reading it yet. So I sent him a couple more books, and I'm sure I'll be getting a request for a couple more.
And since the last time I talked with you, you appeared on Vice's Tales from the Territories. How was that experience for you?
That was an experience. Yeah, I was on there with Medusa and Jimmy Brunzell, Greg Gagne. God, who else was on there? Shit, I can't remember now. But oh, yeah, that was a lot of fun.
They told me when they interviewed me for something that they discovered you from one of my interviews, how entertaining you were.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Now, I'll bring up something that a fan is commenting. I'm not getting into this story, but in that Tales from the Territory, everyone acts like only you could pick up a 30-pound boulder. This fan is bringing up a good point. Why is everyone acting like a 30-pound rock would be so hard to pick up? Your average person could lift 30 pounds, couldn't they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, anybody can pick up a 30-pound rock. I don't think the rock was anywhere. I think it was closer to 15 pounds. But the police, in their infinite wisdom, jacked everything on that fucking situation was jacked out of whack, and number one, of course I was at McDonald's. The kid working the window that night, he even said, "Aren't you Ken Patera?" And I says, "Yeah." I said, "Hey, can I get a couple quarter pounders?" He said, "Well, we're closed." I said, "What do you mean? You got a big tray of hamburgers there. I can see them." "Well, we're doing a commercial." I said, "Oh, that's what all the cameras are for." They had about 4 or 5 cameras in there shooting a commercial for McDonald's, all about quarter pounders with cheese, I guess. And so anyway, they wouldn't sell me anything, and it was like midnight out in the middle of this place was in the middle of nowhere. It was in a little town. It's not a little town anymore, but at that time, Waukesha, Wisconsin. It was right next to Milwaukee. And boy, there's no way that kid, probably 18-year-old, there's no way he was going to give me a quarter pounder, whether it had cheese on it or not. I was talking. I said, "Hey, but you know who I am? Do you know who Mr. Saito is?" "Oh, yeah." So he was a wrestling fan, And just then, this kid comes up, picks up, I was standing in a rock garden. That was outside the drive-up window at McDonald, if you can visualize that. And so he picks up this rock and throws it through the window. And I'm looking at it, I said, "What the fuck you do that for?" He said, "They fired me last week. Fuck them." And he walked off. I said, "Holy shit." And so I said, "Well, you're not going to give me any hamburgers." "Nope, can't do it." So I just walked up. We were staying at the Holiday Inn. It was up on the hill. So I walked back up there. Saito didn't walk down with me because Mad Dog Vachon had hit him in the knee with the steel chair that night. We were wrestling in a little town, Watertown, Wisconsin. And so anyway, I said, "Oh, okay, I'll walk down." Anyway, I get back up there and we go down the bar. The bar's closed, restaurant's closed, everything's locked down. I said, "Fuck." Next thing I know, somebody's knocking on the door. And Saito's next, by the door. I said, "Saito, check that, see who that is." I thought it was just one of the other wrestlers because there were about 8 or 10 of us staying there. And I heard Saito talking. Next thing I know, then I heard a girl's voice. And she's trying to force her way into our room. I said, "What the fuck is going on?" So I get up and I go over there. I was on the bed talking on the phone to my wife. So I walk around the corner to where the door was. And this little skinny bitch, she's trying to break through the door. Fuck, she was 5'10" and weighed 110 pounds. She was a cop. She had a big .357 Magnum on her hip. And I said, "Jesus Christ, the fucking gun was bigger than she was." So anyway, I said, "Just let him in, Saito." So he goes to just pull the door open. She forces her way in. And that pissed me off. I said, "Do you have a search warrant?" "I don't need anything." Fuck, I do. So I threw her out and closed the door. And Saida wound up out in the hallway with her. And there was another guy. This other cop, his name was John Dillon. You guys might be a little too young, but when I was a kid, John Dillon was a big time mafia gangster. And I don't think he ever worked with Al Capone, but anyway, he was a bank robber and ran around with a machine gun and everything. So I find out his name when we go to court a year later. And so, you're entitled to a quick and fair trial in this country, but not in Wisconsin. That's kind of what Trump is going through right now. If they want to get you, they'll get you. They'll fuck with you until, well, I ran out of money. I spent almost $100,000 on lawyers, and fuck. I should have defended myself. Yeah, so anyway, we wound up doing, they sent us to prison for a broken window. But of course, that was more than a broken window. When the cops came up to her room and created a ruckus, well, by the time I went back out into the hallway, there wasn't just 2 cops, there were 16 cops. They had their backups, that they had state police, city police, and I think they had county. Yeah, they had county police too. Anyway, they had sent the notice out to all the police departments in the area, and because they knew they were dealing with 2 big burly fucking wrestlers from the planet Mars. We had come down to Waukesha, Wisconsin to beat up their police department. And anyway, we wound up getting 2 years in prison, 2 years stayed, 6 years probation. That was the most anybody in the history of history had gotten for that type of offense. And so that pissed me off. And we got out after a year and a half. We got 6 months off for good behavior. We were model prisoners. And because we were model prisoners, we didn't cause any trouble. Yeah, and made the cops look bad. And about 20 years ago, now this happened back in 85, I think. But anyway, about 20 years ago, I heard that little bitch died. I don't know what she died of, but she's gone. She passed. And that was one of the happiest days of my life when I heard that. She was nothing but a fucking bitch. And anyway.
Did you at least
women? I love women. I have 4 daughters. They're all gorgeous. And so it's just one of those things. What were you going to say?
Did you at least get to be cellmates with Saito?
We were cellmates for the first 2 weeks. And that was in Waupun Penitentiary. That penitentiary had to be 200 years old. I mean, Jesus, God. I'm not exaggerating either. It was old. And so I got a note on there, Kenny Casanova, ha, ha, ha. What the fuck you laughing about, you asshole?
He told me to ask you about the time you trashed the Jerry Lee Lewis concert.
Oh my God. Uh, yeah, I was about 18. Yeah, we're freshmen in college at that time. It was Roy Lucas, Hy McInerney, myself, and there, Gary, can't think of Gary's last name. Yeah, but anyway, they wanted to go to Jerry Lewis. It was out in, uh, I think it was McMinnville, Oregon. Well, wherever Nike Corporation has their big campus now, that was a farm that had the Jerry Lewis concert on it, and of course, it doesn't look like a
Beaverton.
Was it Beaverton?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Beaverton, Oregon, and so we go out there. Place was packed. There had to be 600 kids in that fucking barn. And, those old time barns, they weren't that big. And anyway, Jerry Lewis and his band were up on they had built a makeshift stage for them. And they were just going wild. I was enjoying it. Well, Roy was 6'5", 6'6", about 220 pounds, 18 years old, full of piss and vinegar, always wanting to punch something. So we're drinking. I even remember the beer we were drinking. We were drinking Olympia beer from Tumwater, Washington. Why do I remember this shit? But anyway, he says, we're all standing there about 10 deep. We're about 10 people back. Roy takes his bottle of beer, boom, throws it at Jerry Lewis. Now, at that time, Jerry Lewis was a big thing. He wasn't Elvis Presley, but he was getting there. And so Jerry, he ducks, and that bottle of beer hit, I saw it right there. That bottle of beer is about half full. It hit the guitar player right behind him, right in the forehead. Boom. Down he goes. And while the shit, the whole place erupted then. And we had a full-scale riot. And then, within 5 minutes, here comes the cops. I said, Roy, you asshole, what the fuck did you have to do that for? I was enjoying this. So, Hy McInerney, I called Roy and Mutt and Jeff. Roy was 6'5" and Hy was 5'5". His real name was Highland McInerney, good Irish boy. So Hy, he notices there's a side door right next to where the bandstand is. And he looked at me, he says, Ken, there's a door open over there. Let's get out of here. So the 5 of us, boom, we go through that fucking exit door. We're out in the parking lot. Well, there wasn't a parking lot, it was just a hayfield. And so we run down to our car, jump in, and beat it out of there. As we're going down the road, the cops are streaming in. There had to be 10, 12 cop cars. And so that we came close to getting into it with the cops, but we didn't. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about Mad Dog Vachon hurting Saito with the chair. Do you have any stories about Mad Dog? Because he was another pretty crazy guy.
Oh God. Yeah, there are a lot of stories. Well, I'll tell you one that is probably the most famous, but I wasn't there at the time. But I heard this story so many times, I know it by heart. Greg Gagne tells this story all the time. They were flying, Vern Gagne had a twin engine Navajo, a beautiful plane. And those guys were coming back from Nebraska. I think they were somewhere down around Omaha. And they were coming over Iowa, over Des Moines, Iowa, I think it was. And so Mad Dog has to pee. So Mad Dog opens the plane. Well, that's a death trap on a small plane. And so down goes the steps. Mad Dog's hanging out the goddamn door, peeing, and the pilot's just having a shit conniption. So he says, "Who in the hell close that door, close that door." Well, so he had to make an emergency landing. I think it was Nick Bockwinkel and Bobby Heenan, Bobby, Mad Dog, a couple other guys. So they're going over Des Moines. No place to land except this Air Force base. So here they go. They land at that Air Force base, and here's military personnel all over them. And then the cops showed up, and everybody's out on the tarmac by that time. And the cops had the authority, of course, so they're asking Greg what happened. And so Greg tells him Mad Dog had to take a piss, so he opened up the door. Lucky they were only about 6,000 feet, but they got down safe. That pilot, his name Roy, I think, he was a good pilot too. But anyway, we're those guys. Once they got back up. Adrian Adonis was with him too. So they get back on the plane, and Mad Dog was all upset because he had a girlfriend. I think she lived up in Montreal, and he wanted to drive up and be with her, the next day. Well, he had drank so much. He drank I think 2 pints of whiskey and a bunch of beer. And so anyway, they get back on the plane, and Adrian gives him a couple pills. They don't make these anymore. Quaaludes. You remember Quaaludes, or you too?
Yeah, Hulk Hogan tells a story about Jesse Ventura taking them.
Oh yeah, Jesse loved Quaaludes. Well, him and Adrian were tag team partners. Yeah, they was that the time he passed out down in San Francisco?
Yeah. Oh, well, you can tell us that one after.
Okay, let me finish this one up. So Mad Dog pops a Quaalude. And about half an hour later, he says, "Adrian, you have another one of those?" "Yeah, I have a bunch of them." "Well, give me one more." And Adrian, he says, "I don't think you need another one. You've already drank 2 pints of whiskey. You've taken 1 Quaalude. another Quaalude. You're not going to be able to drive to Montreal. And of course I will. Well, Mad Dog, he never took drugs. He didn't know what that shit could do to him. So on the way, when they're flying from Des Moines back to Minneapolis, he pops another Quaalude. Well, by the time they land in Minneapolis, he is out. He is out. And so I don't know. Well, I know he got to Montreal, but I think somebody had to drive him. So, yeah, so that's it. But I'll tell you that Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, because I've heard a version of it from Hogan, but Hogan tends to exaggerate sometimes. So maybe you could set the record straight.
I don't know if he. Well, let me see. Now I just come back to the AWA at the time, and so I don't think I was in the territory when that happened. No, I was. Yeah, fuck yeah, I was. So we're doing TV on a Wednesday. We did TV every Wednesday, go in the TV studio and cut wrestling promos. And Vern Gagne, the promoter, he asked Adrian, where's Jesse at? And he said, well, the last time I saw him was in San Francisco last night. So anyway, Ventura, he went down to Haight-Ashbury. That was where all the hippies and transvestites and whatever else hung out. And so he went down there, and he got all fucked up. I guess he was doing. I'm sure he was taking a few Quaaludes and some other shit too, probably heroin or something. Jesse said he tried everything at one time or another in his life, So anyway, we get a phone call from the police department in San Francisco. They had picked Ventura up at Fisherman's Wharf. He was leaning next to a dumpster. He's passed out, and so they picked him up, took him downtown. I don't know if they booked him. Just basically a vagrant on the street. So anyway, they got him out, bailed him out. He shows up in Minneapolis the next day. And boy, was he rough. His fucking hair his clothes were dirty, filthy. And so anyway, he basically slept in a garbage dumpster that night. So, but is that kind of on the line that?
Yeah. But Hogan said he actually showed up at an event in San Francisco on them too, and was basically pissing himself.
Oh yeah, that's true. I wasn't there, but I heard about the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Kenny says that Jesse Ventura still visits you sometime, and you guys still have a relationship.
Oh yeah. Jesse, he used to spend 6 months in Minneapolis or Minnesota, 6 months down in the Baja, Mexico. But he sold all that stuff down in Mexico. He sold that stuff quite a while ago, 10 years ago, maybe. But yeah, Jesse and I have a mutual friend by the name of Wade Olson. We call him Wade Stock Olson. great guy. And so I had a birthday party Wade had a birthday party for me about 4 or 5 years ago. He had invited Ventura, Jimmy Brunzell, a couple other wrestlers, and about 20 mutual friends, you know. Had a nice party. Well, the next year, or was it 2 years later, Ventura shows up again. And first year he showed up in his sports car. What the hell you call those? Anyway, he sold his sports car and bought a Tesla. And he was telling us all about the Tesla and everything. And Kenny, you got to buy one of these. They're only 45 or 50,000. And I said, Jesse, I don't drive anymore. You don't? No. I said, fuck, I gave it up. And I mean, I have 4 cars, you know, but I don't drive any of them. And I have my son-in-law, my daughter, a couple other friends that live near here. And so I'm not without wheels, let's put it that way. You know, I had my back surgery almost a year ago next month. And I had so much pain. The pain is gone, thank God. But I left my left leg a little gimpy. And so I'm not real stable on it, but I get around good. You know, I have a walker and I have a cane and I have a wheelchair. I'm sitting in the wheelchair now. The reason I'm sitting in the wheelchair is because I can get around a lot better. And but anyway, yeah, Jesse and I have been friends for years. You know, Jesse started wrestling out in Portland, Oregon for Don Owens. And that was my hometown. I started wrestling in Minneapolis for Vern Gagne as Jesse's hometown. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Portland, Oregon, one wrestler who I think you were tag team partners with for a while, Billy Jack Haynes, recently allegedly killed his wife.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, you know, Vice TV, they're flying out here to my house next month. They're going to do a big production on that. And, you know, because I grew up in Portland, Billy grew up in Portland, and we were tag team partners, of course. And so that'll be on Vice TV, I don't know, probably within 4 months. But
yeah, I heard the next season of Dark Side of the Ring is going to be Billy Jack. So there you go, confirming it.
Oh, okay.
Lady Blossom, his ex-wife that was also married to Steve Austin, also told me she's going to be part of it.
Oh, really? Okay. What was her name?
Jeannie Clark is her real name, but her wrestling name was Lady Blossom. She used to manage Steve Austin and Chris Adams, I think.
Oh, I see.
Okay. But between Chris Adams and Steve Austin, she was married to Billy Jack for a year.
Yeah, figure that. How the hell is that?
It's a thing in wrestling, isn't it? To share, like some people marry each other's wives for some reason in wrestling.
Yeah, I never understood that, but that's happened many times. Like Chris, what the hell, the guy that killed his wife.
Chris Benoit and Kevin Sullivan, and also Magnum TA married Tully Blanchard's ex.
Yeah, Yeah.
So
Okay.
there's been a bunch of stuff like that. But were you surprised to hear that from Billy Jack? He actually called me an hour before the gunshots went off, and I feel terrible about it
Wow.
because my mother was over here talking to me, and he usually talks for a long time. So I was going to call him back after, but I've been wondering ever since then what exactly he was trying to call me about right before this happened.
Probably that he felt sorry for his wife and he was going to kill her. But I guess she had Alzheimer's or dementia or something. And what I figure is he just wanted to put her out of her misery. Well, sometimes Billy wasn't wrapped real tight either. And yeah, we were tag team partners. We in WWF. What the hell they called us? The Lumberjacks, the Oregon Lumberjacks, and that didn't last too long because something happened where Billy. Or did I leave first? I think I left first. That was in '88. And when I left, I think Billy was still there, or vice versa. I'm not real clear on that. But yeah, it's just they want to talk to me about Billy Jack, and what my thoughts about what happened, how I felt about it and stuff. I said, well, I talked to Billy about every 3 or 4 years. I didn't have a lot of contact with him. The last
Actually, this reminds me, just before this happened, and he may have even texted you about this, he wanted me to call you because he wanted me to have you tell the story of what happened to him overdosing on the airplane. He said you could confirm this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we're in Oakland, California, and big show there at the Oakland Coliseum. So the show starts, and Billy's not there. He's not there. He's not there. And now the show's about half gone. Here, Billy comes in. He caught a cab from the airport, and he's just sweating profusely. And so I had the referee or somebody go up to the refreshment stand there and get a quart of orange juice because I knew that that happened to me a couple times, not from drugs, but from working out too much and losing a lot of salt, a lot of your minerals. So I told him to go up to the refreshment stand and get a quart of orange juice and make it fast. That kid was up there and back in about 2 minutes. And so I had Billy lay down on the couch. There was a couch in the locker room. So I said, Billy, drink this quart of orange, drink the whole fucking bottle. So he drank the whole bottle. And about 10 minutes after that, he felt fine. And prior to that, there's no way he could get to the ring. He couldn't even stand up. And so anyway, that saved his ass. But I don't know what he was doing. Something he was doing, drugs or something that got him in that situation. I never asked him what he took or anything like that. It's none of my business. So
Yeah,
anyway,
he told me that it was mostly pain medication he was addicted to in those years. He did not really hide that. He claimed that he said that he was a dealer of cocaine. He alleges, but he
yeah.
said he wasn't using that. He said he only sold it to the boys. But
Well,
apparently he was addicted to pain medication.
yeah, he was. Yeah, I knew that for 2 years, and I mean, I pop a pain pill once in a while, for Christ's sakes. You know, my knees, my hips, my back, my neck, my shoulders, everything was fucked up, and my elbows. Anyway, you needed some help. But I never OD'd on that stuff, and that's what, sometimes you get taking that stuff. Wow, two makes you feel pretty good. Maybe four will make you feel a little bit better. Maybe a half a dozen will really get you going. Well, it's like Mad Dog Vachon, he wasn't one to ever do drugs. So he wound up taking those Quaaludes on that airplane, and yeah, he was down for the count. But what they say, they saw me at the Boston Garden.
Yeah, the Boston Garden. Yes, where I'm sure you wrestled a million times.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite venues. Was the Boston Garden. It was old. It was dingy. The whole building creaked. It was made out of steel beams and wood, and it was right next to the subway train. And I even took that train from New York City up to Boston the first time I went to Boston. And yeah, fuck. I thought it was going to fall off the tracks any minute, all the way up there from Boston to New York. But I made it safely. But Boston Garden, what a riot. Yeah, they had a few years before I got there, Blackjack Mulligan was wrestling Bruno, I think it was. And they had their match. They were going. Back in those days, it was so bad from fans throwing bottles and bricks in the ring that they had to put a big net over the ring. And well, sometimes they'd throw so much shit in the ring that fucking net would, shrink down, damn near touch the mat. But anyway, I was talking to Blackjack Mulligan one day, and he said, "Kenny, you got to watch out for that Boston Garden; they'll stab you." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he pulled his pants down. He had a scar on his thigh that had to be that long. Yeah, Mulligan was like 6'8". He's a big man. And this Mexican, he was a tile worker. And those tile knives, they have a hook on the end of them.
Yeah.
Oh, they're sharp as razors. Anyway, he jumped in the ring and cut Jack right down the thigh. Just laid him open, just peeled it open. And they got it stitched up and everything, but they said that he had put something on the blade that would infect a wound. Well, that's what happened to Jack. He wound up in the hospital for weeks, Yeah, it was staph infection, all kinds of infections from that. He's lucky he didn't lose his leg. Yeah, yeah. So
I don't know if you've heard today, these days, but WWE, they're hardly doing any house shows anymore. The minimum pay is 350,000 a year, and there's medics backstage and stuff. So it's a lot easier than the days when you guys were doing it.
oh yeah, fuck, we didn't have shit. Uh, you know, talking about medics, they didn't even have. Uh, I'll tell you a story. We were in Madison, Wisconsin, doing a TV shoot. And I was wrestling this kid, Rocky Stone. He was from the Milwaukee area. So I picked him up, body slammed him. As I did, I popped this tendon off. I don't know if you can't see it here. I tore that tendon off, and I threw him, and my hand just boom hit me in the head. I said, "Fuck!" I popped the tendon off. So I went to I said, "Where's the ambulance at?" "Oh, they left already." "Fuck! Where's the ice?" "Oh, they threw all the ice out already." Oh man, I was so pissed off. One guy there, superstar Billy Graham. He had driven from Minneapolis to Madison. Yeah, I flew in from somewhere, so I didn't have a car. So Billy said, "Jump in my car. I'll take you to the hospital." Thank God he gets me over to the hospital because there's some intern over there. He doesn't know ass from a hole in the ground. I said, "Do you have any pain pills or anything?" I mean, I tore that tendon completely off. And when they repaired it, 2, 3 days later, the doctor, he operated on, he had to drill a hole in the ulna here and take that tendon, loop it through the hole in my ulna, and put me in a cast for 2 months or 6 weeks. And but I can put I can't straighten my left arm, but I can straighten my right arm. And the right arm, they said, was going to be bent permanently for the rest of my life. Well, that didn't happen. So thank God.
Yeah, you still went on for a long career after that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I still, I'm trying to think. I think I still wrestled 5, 6 years after that, or 4 anyway. Yeah, I was getting fed up with the fucking bullshit McMahon was pulling after a while, and I was married, had a couple of kids by then, and I wasn't real happy with professional wrestling at that time, believe me. And it wasn't paying that well. And I finally cornered McMahon one afternoon down in Huntsville, Alabama. I walked in the arena. I said, "Where's McMahon have his office at in here?" Right there. So I walked in there. I looked in. I said, "Vince, hey Ken, how you doing? Why don't you come on in?" I said, "Well, I got my bag here. I can either put it down and talk to you about the payoffs, or I can just hold it, turn around, and walk out of here without any regrets and say, 'Fuck you.'" "Well, God, what's the problem?" I said, "I'm making less money now than I did a year ago, you motherfucker. I'm sick and tired of it. I said, and you're putting me in all these, back in those days, we worked off the house. I said, you put me in some fucking shit town out in Redding, California, and run me all the way down to San Diego, then back up to uh, uh, wherever. I said, I'll be out there to drive almost 2,000 miles and make $1,500. I said, fuck you. Well, God, anyway, I did a deal with him. I said, this is what I'll do. You start paying me, I think, 4,000 or 4,500 a week, something like that. And I'll stay here and put over Big Boss Man, Bad News Brown, King Kong Bundy. I'll even put the fucking Red Rooster over, which I did right in the middle of the ring in Boston Garden. Oh, people started booing. Oh, fuck. I didn't give a shit, but by that time. But everybody that he wanted, it took me 4 months to do it, or 3 months, something like that. I put everybody over right in the middle of the ring. He said, well, don't you want to do this or do that? I said, fuck no, I'll put them over right in the middle of the ring. God, there was, I bet there was 15 guys I put over, which, but I could care less. I said, hey, it's all bullshit anyway. You fucking went out there and told everybody it's all fake. Yeah, so what the fuck do I give a shit? It's not all fake. I mean, we beat the shit out of each other.
Why did everybody hate the Red Rooster behind the scenes, by the way? You don't hear too much good about him.
Oh, Terry Taylor?
Yeah.
Well, he was kind of a squirrely guy, He was, he came up from the NWA, up from Charlotte and Charlotte area, the Georgia area. He was a Southern boy too. And, well, you couldn't trust the motherfucker. He'd tell you something and go do something else. But at that time, I didn't give a fuck. Terry was all right.
What do you think of all the stuff that's happened with Vince since the last time we talked, where basically he's had to sell the WWE, then resign from the board of directors. Now apparently he's under federal investigation. I don't know if anything's going to come of it or not, but
no. He's not a violent man, but he's a deceptive motherfucker. You don't want to be around people like that. He's just disgusting. And what did he do? He shit on some girl's head.
supposedly he shit on her head and made his, well, I don't know if he made the talent relations guy, John Laurinaitis, have sex with her or not, or if it was consensual, but that's the allegation. But a lot has come out about her since then, so we don't know what the truth is.
Yeah, I don't think she was anybody's sweetheart.
She apparently was engaged at this time, living just a couple floors below Vince McMahon with her fiance. So technically she was cheating during this, but
yeah,
she's alleging rape. I don't quite know. I guess the courts will figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I heard that Vince got John Laurinaitis involved in it. And I don't know. Did his wife divorce him or kick him out of the house?
Vince, actually, Linda was at the Republican National Convention a couple days ago, and she said that the family's doing great.
Well, Well, why would she say? Yeah. Well, Vince Vince did a lot of business with Trump. You know, had him on his TV show and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I know Linda. She's really into politics. She ran for senator from Connecticut. I guess she dropped $50 million on her campaign. My God. Yeah. I wish she would have.
Supposedly, she donated 11 million to Trump's campaign too, so they're definitely behind it. And Hulk Hogan gave a promo at the convention too. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't. Oh yeah, I saw the tail end of about 10 seconds. He was going to get revenge, and he tore his T-shirt off.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, that's all I saw. Oh boy,
The most WWE integrated Republican convention ever.
what was that?
Like the most wrestling integrated political convention ever with that promo and Linda McMahon. And technically, Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame. And I guess Kid Rock was there too. He's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Kid Rock.
I guess he's a singer who I'm sure you probably don't listen to.
Oh, I know who he is.
Okay.
Yeah, he shot up the Bud Light beer cans on TV. With automatic weapon of some kind.
They put him in the WWE Hall of Fame before you.
I'm not in there.
I know that makes no sense at all.
I tell you, I get a kick out of that fucking stuff. The Hall of Fame of what? Vince McMahon and his illusions and delusions. I said, when I went to work the first time for his dad was in 77. I wrestled Pat Patterson for the, I wrestled Bruno Sammartino 3 times in Madison Square Garden in the early parts of 1977. That's what it was. And then I wrestled Pat the following year and beat him for the Intercontinental belt. But yeah, I was the top bad guy in WWF for 2.5 years. Yeah, about 2.5 years. And then supposedly I was supposed to get the belt. That's what the old man, Vince's father, told me. He says, Kenny, he said, you're the only guy on our roster here that doesn't need a belt. Every one of these performers, wrestlers, in order for them to draw, they need a championship belt around their waist. You don't need anything. You just go out there, get the job done, draw sellout crowds everywhere you go. And so a year after that, they decided to put the Intercontinental belt on me. Yeah, I hated dragging that fucking thing around. I'd throw that. I'd make sure there's a spot in my travel bag on the bottom. I put that belt on the bottom.
Yeah, because that's got to be annoying when you're a heel and you're going through like the flight check and everything, and they pull out the belt, and then everyone's looking at you, and you just probably want to get to your plane.
Yeah, well, that they didn't do that a lot. They didn't check bags too much back in those days. Well, but they did do it, but not too much. And so, but it was just a pain in the butt. I had 34 championship belts, all the way from Texas, Louisiana to Georgia, North Carolina. Fuck, I had a belt in almost every territory. I added them up one time. It was 34. I had to drag around, not all at one time, of course, but at one time or another, I always had one of those stupid belts in my bag. And God, I hated carrying those things around. But I guess I made a little bit more money.
Yeah, back when you were paid off the draw. Somebody here wants to know about the Von Erichs and if you thought that Fritz was responsible for the kids' issues.
Uh, well, I knew those kids. They're all little towheads, little blondes. And I remember when I first went down there in 70, let's see, 75, I think it was. All those kids, they were only 8, 9, 10 years old at that time, and they come down. Uh, Fritz would bring them down to the sportatorium. That's where we wrestled. I think they tore that building down. It was on Industrial and Cadets.
Yeah, they tore it down like 10-ish years ago, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, they'd always be upstairs in the locker room, and Fritz had his office up there too, and Bronco, one of the referees, Bronco Burbage, I think. They had offices up there. Those kids would be crawling underneath the desk and jumping over the couches, and they're fuck. They were good kids, though. So when they got older, Fritz wanted me to show them how to lift weights and everything, and because they all wanted to lift, they wanted to get bigger and stronger. But as wrestling is, you don't stay in one area very long. Not back in those days. You're 6 months, maybe a year and a half if you're really if you wanted to. I never wanted to stay anywhere very long. Because I always wanted to leave time so I could always circle back, and work the territories. And anyway, the kids, Kerry, he was a hell of a discus thrower. I think he was national high school champion in the discus. I have a nephew that when he was in high school, he set the all-time national record in the discus. So there's something I could relate to with him, And then, or was that Kerry? Yeah, that was Kerry, yeah. And David was the tall one. He was about 6'5". Good kid, bad drug habit. And he OD'd on drugs. And I was with him and somebody else down St. Louis the night before he had to go to Japan. And the doctor told him not to go because he had an infection, abdominal infection, stomach infection of some kind. Anyway, he just popped a bunch of pills, jumped on the plane. I guess Bruiser Brody picked him up in Tokyo and took him to the matches. And after that, they went out drinking. Bruiser Brody wasn't a big drinker, but David Von Erich sure was. And I guess the next morning, somebody came and got Bruiser and said, "Hey, David's not answering his phone. He's not answering the door." So Bruiser got one of the maids, opened up the door. He was laying between the bed and the wall, dead. He evidently threw up during the night and choked to death on his own puke. And not a good way to go. But they were going to put the belt on him, And so anyway, and then so David, Kerry, what's the oldest one's name? He's still alive.
Kevin's the last remaining one, because there was a couple others that were Chris passed away too, and then there was the very young one that died when he was like 3 or 4.
Yeah, he died swimming in the swimming pool. They had an outdoor pool in their yard. I think that they lived in Richardson, Texas, just outside of Dallas. But anyway, Fritz was a big hero down there in Texas. Texas football, Longhorn, University of Texas. Or no, he didn't go to Texas. He went to, Southern Methodist, I think it was. Yeah, Southern Methodist. But those boys, they all had a rough go of it. Yeah, there was, I liked them all. I knew them all, at different times of their lives, I wrestled David in St. Louis. I wrestled Kevin in St. Louis 2 or 3 times. I wrestled them all. They all had potential. They were good.
I don't know if you heard, but in the news last week, I don't know how closely you follow wrestling anymore, they released Ric Flair, your old buddy from AEW. They only used him about 5 times. It was supposed to be a 2-year deal. Have you been following Ric Flair at all in that pizza restaurant incident from a couple months ago?
No, they just released him recently?
Yeah, last week they released him from AEW, so now he'll probably end up back doing something with WWE in some way, because I guess The Rock is doing a movie about him.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'll have to give Rick a call. He called me about 3 months ago, and he was in a gym, and some of the younger guys, muscle heads, they knew who Ken Patera was, but they didn't know who Ric Flair was. And so Rick told him that him and I lived together when we were training to become wrestlers. Well, they didn't believe him. So he calls me. He says, "Ken, you got to straighten these guys out." I said, "Put them on the phone." So that was the last time I talked to Rick. That's got to be 3 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, they brought I don't know what he was making in AEW, but they completely wasted him there. So I hope he at least made good money out of it.
I'm sure he did. Yeah, I'm sure he did.
There was some, now everybody has cameras. He had some issue with someone at a pizza restaurant. And someone got it on tape, and it was a big thing. It actually made like mainstream news a few months ago, but they didn't even capitalize on it and put him on TV. Just makes no sense these days.
What was something going down? Did he get thrown out of the restaurant?
Yeah. Yeah, he basically got thrown out of the restaurant.
Okay. That sounds like something Rick would do.
Yeah.
Somebody else told me there's an incident with Rick that Rick punched somebody, and I guess the kid was an MMA fighter, or I didn't get the gist of the situation, but I guess they got started rolling around in the bar and punching each other. I'm thinking to myself, Rick, you're 75, 76 years old. What the fuck?
Yeah, apparently he wooed in the face of a grandmother this day at the pizza restaurant, and he apparently knocked over some drinks on a on a kid. So I believe the MMA story. But the last thing I got to ask you about Flair, you know him. I love Ric Flair, by the way. I'm not bringing up any of this in a bad way. I find it entertaining.
Yeah.
But he gets in a lot of confrontations, but you never actually hear any physical fight stories about him. In your opinion, is he tough? I mean, you knew him back when he was a bouncer.
Well, we bounced together. Yeah, he was 21 and I was 26. And he wasn't a physical type guy. He was more of a diplomatic type guy. You know, if there was a problem at the door with somebody trying to get in with fake ID or something, you know, he wouldn't rough him up or anything. I'd go over and snatch him. Come here, you motherfucker. But no, Rick wasn't a kid that would fight. You know, there's a kid that played linebacker for the University of Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. His last name was Carter, and big strap, and I think he was all pro NFL. And but when they were at the university, I think Carter tried to roughhouse Rick, and but Carter was just a big raw bone guy, you know. I met him a couple times. Nice guy. He had a car dealership and everything when he was playing pro football. But anyway, Rick easily whipped his ass.
There you go. There's some confirmation for the fans out there, because a lot of people wonder, because you always hear that he almost gets in fights many times. Roddy Piper too. You always hear stories about they don't back down from people, but you never actually hear too much about them getting into it. So
yeah, they usually talk their way out of it. Yeah, very rarely did Rick ever get in a fight. I know he got in a fight with his son-in-law, and, you know, a couple bar fights, but you know those things never last very long. You know, they only last a couple seconds.
did you ever see Haku in a fight? Speaking of wrestlers that have that reputation.
No, no, I never hung around Haku. No, the Samoans I hung out with were they're dead now, unfortunately. Afa and Sika.
Afa is actually still alive. He's just been going through a lot of health problems.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Afa, he's had heart surgery recently, back surgery. He's been in and out of hospitals, but he's still hanging on, from what I understand.
Good. Yeah, he's my age. We're both 80.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see you're doing great, and I appreciate you taking the time to check in. Maybe we'll have to do it again soon, because I got about 100 fan questions on here that I didn't ask. So
yeah,
I'll keep them in mind, and we'll do it again.
You just wanted to talk about what you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, because I've had some burning questions in my mind.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Very good. So let's give the book another plug here. KenPatera.com is your website.
Yeah.
And there's the book. What give us a little sample about what's in the book.
Well, it's a thick book, almost 500 pages. So if you're going to sit down and try to read it in one day, a friend of mine read it in one day, but I think he skipped a few pages. But I talk about Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan. Ric Flair wrote the foreword to it. And I talk about, going through Vern Gagne's wrestling camp, and a lot of people don't realize that when I was trained to be a pro wrestler, we went to a training camp out here in the middle of a cornfield in the middle of winter. It was Ric Flair, Ken Patera, Jimmy Brunzell, Greg Gagne, Bobby, Bob Bruggers. He had been
He just died too. I don't know if you heard Bob Bruggers died a couple months ago.
Yeah, I just heard that. Yeah, he was a football player in the NFL, good football player. And the one and only Khosrow Vaziri, the Iron Sheik. When did the Sheik pass away?
I think a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
I don't think too many people were surprised at that, but he made it to 80, didn't he? Or pretty close.
Do what?
I think the Sheik made it to around 80, surprisingly.
Yeah, 81.
And
Yeah.
Billy Graham was a good friend of mine. He passed away last year, sadly.
Yeah, he was 80. Harley Race was 80. Yeah.
All the greats. Just got to put up this fan comment. It's a quick one. Is it true that you ran into Bob Backlund and he didn't recognize you?
No. No, that's not true. The last time I saw Bobby, he gave me an autograph book. Yeah, he wrote a book, Bobby Backlund, and he autographed it for me. And no.
Yeah, because he's been kind of off the radar lately, so people have been wondering. So glad we could clear that up.
Yeah. Now, somebody did call me. Somebody called me and told me that Bobby has dementia and that him and his wife moved from Connecticut down to Florida. And they're living in Florida now. I know he bought a house. He had a house for 30 years down there in Florida. And his daughter lived in it. And so anyway. But,
well, you cleared up a lot in this, actually, so I appreciate it. And I'll let you close this off with whatever you want to tell the fans to shut this down. And we'll definitely have you back on soon.
Yeah. Okay. Wrestling fans everywhere, you're watching a program that I love being on. Hannibal the Animal, right out of Toronto. It is Toronto. But anyway, I love being on here because I know there's he covers a broad scope of topics, and he has a good reach out there. A lot of viewers, a lot of listeners, and I'm kind of irrelevant nowadays, but when I was in my prime, I was a piece of work, baby. And people always want to know what I did. What you did, was that true? That true? Is that, God, that one's hard to believe. They're all true. And I enjoyed every one of them. I enjoyed my whole life. I mean, I was only in wrestling about 17, 18 years. I got out early, but hell, I was 45 years old. I started late because I was an Olympic athlete. I was going to world championships and weightlifting, shot put, stuff like that. I was going to world championships, Pan Am games, Olympic games. So I was all over the world, competing as an amateur. And then something clicked up here that says, I don't have any fucking money. And so that's when I decided to get into wrestling. And really don't regret it. I kind of wish I was maybe a little more firm in, demanding stuff. I was kind of a get along, happy go lucky type of guy. I never, caused any promoters any problems. No serious problems, anyway. I know that. See you next time. Ken Patera.